Welcome to the Sporting Chance. This podcast is brought to you by Midnight Falconry, makers of high-quality falconry leashes and jesses. Check them out at midnightfalconry.com. Ashley Clark Falconry, the highest quality leather falconry equipment, handmade in England, built to last and looks damn good while you're at it. Check them out at aclarkfalconry.co.uk. Be sure and use the code SportingChance10 at checkout. North Mountain Goshawks. Seth Roy is breeding high-quality, true parent-reared goshawks in addition to imprint goshawks on order. Check him out at northmountaingoshawks.com.
Welcome, everyone, to the Sporting Chance podcast. My name is Casey, and I am joined today by a very special guest. A guest that you may or may not heard before. He is the co-host of the Sporting Chance podcast, my co-host, in fact. And we're here today to just give a little background. I mean, we're very rude. We didn't introduce ourselves. We just jump right on and start this crazy podcast and start selling shirts, and people are enjoying it. Nobody knows who the hell we are. So this episode, we're gonna dive into Aaron's history and everything about Aaron. So Aaron, why don't you introduce yourself, please, to the people?
Hey, everybody. I'm Aaron Kincaid. I am a falconer and dog lover in North Carolina.
Nice. Down south, down there. Spinning yarns down there.
That's us.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, man. Okay, so let's start. I mean, the obvious place to start is, of course, what made you get into it? Were you into reptiles? Were you into animals? I know you love all kinds of different, exotic stuff. So tell us a little bit about that.
So I am an animal lover. Always have been. My mom said I was catching toads in the backyard the moment I could walk.
Nice.
When I stop and think about where I heard about falconry for the first time, I can't really mark that because it's something that I've known about my whole life. My dad was always interested in becoming a falconer. And I remember seeing things like Beastmaster. You familiar with that one, Casey?
I've heard of it.
It's, like basically Conan the Barbarian, but he can speak to animals, speak to beasts. He's got a ferret. I think he might have a wolf or something, but he had a Harris hawk.
Oh,
so
okay.
he was a shitty falconer.
If he wasn't playing with all the wolves and the ferrets, he'd have more time to fly something more challenging. Just kidding, everybody. Jeez.
Yeah, just kidding. Kidding.
Take a breath. They already tuned out. We're just joking. So, all right.
Yeah. Anyone who knows me knows that I joke constantly. It's just always, it's always something with this guy, Yeah. So the Harris Hawk stuff is, please just, it's tongue in cheek.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's why we're doing the episode, so people can get an idea of who you are, and, and what you're all about and how serious you take the sport. And yeah, everything's a joke. And if anybody's been around me in person, I joke. It's almost like a nervous tick, right? I just don't stop joking and busting chops constantly. So it's just all a joke. You know what I mean? We're just joking around. We love Harris Hawks. So Conan the Barbarian, catching toads. You got a toad in your hand. You got the remote in the other hand. You watch a cart.
Yep.
Conan Barbarian. See the Harris Hawk, and it just spoke to your spirit right through the screen. And you're like, I got to do this.
Yeah, I always just wanted to get my hands on a bird of prey. There was a book I read when I was a little kid called Owls in the Family by Farley Mowat. You ever heard that one?
I have not. No, I have not.
It's a young adult, older children's book. I bought it for my daughter, but she's too young. I stop and look at it, and it's just a little too long for me to want to read to her at night.
Yeah.
So, that you got to strike a fine balance with the books you read to them.
Oh yeah,
not too many words. I need to be able to finish this in 5 minutes.
Yeah. My son picks up this one book. It's about hurricanes and tornadoes, and it's it literally is it's like a science book. And I'm like, dude, we're not reading this before bed. I'll be here for 3 days. This is ridiculous.
Oof. Maybe one day I can do like chapter by chapter with her.
Yeah,
But
that's
I
a good
don't
idea.
feel like shit. I think it would bore her. It doesn't have enough pictures in it.
Yeah, got to have some pictures, like I always say.
Yeah. So yeah, I wanted, like I said, I'm an animal lover. I love wildlife. I'm fascinated to this day by all types of stuff. I am an owl lover. I do like owls quite a bit, though I concede they're not suitable for falconry. That doesn't mean you can't like them, though, right?
Right. Yes. I mean, some people get it done. I know a couple of people that get it done. You hear stories and legends of people.
Let me stop you there. I flew a great horned owl.
Oh, okay.
And I did take game with it.
What'd you take?
But I took rabbits.
Nice.
I took one evening. He had the most beautiful flight in the world on a cicada.
Wow.
I'm serious about it being a beautiful flight. It was super aerial. He came off the fist. The cicada went like straight up in the air, and they were just kind of whirling around after each other. Well, after the cicada.
Yeah.
And he eventually took it on the wing and came down to the ground and ate it.
That's so cool.
He caught a frog one time.
Nice.
He went after something with a vengeance, and I was like, "Oh, here we go." He saw something and just landed in this little puddle and had a frog.
What kind of frog?
I don't know. Maybe like there's actually a frog called a green frog, not a green tree frog. Kind of looks like a little bullfrog.
Okay.
It was a little one. He caught a killdeer on the wing one time. Yeah.
How'd that go down? Like by surprise? Like,
yeah, I mean, killdeer, they get really stupid. And I was not targeting killdeer.
Yeah, of course.
But we were walking by. He was on the fist. And this killdeer just took off and he went after it. And boom, just snatched it right out of the air.
Yeah, I always see him doing that little, you'll be walking through like a flat area or something. And then you see like this killdeer like run away, like having a seizure with like its wing hanging on the ground. And you're like, where's the nest? Where's the nest? They always do that. It's so
nest
funny.
is so cool to find.
Oh yeah, I don't think I've ever walked. I don't know if I've ever found a nest. Like I never
They're
actually looked.
hard. Yeah, it's so hard to find them. They're so well camouflaged, but when you can, it's pretty cool.
That is cool.
Yeah, he caught a killdeer, caught several rabbits, but out of the several that he caught, I probably showed him 10,000.
Right.
So his success rate was super, super low.
So now were you walking like through like open areas during the evening when they're coming out to feed and like letting them chase them off the glove, or were you like with the dogs beating brush, like, you know what I mean?
It was just him on the glove, no dogs around. Yeah, that was it.
Were you actively trying to flush them, or you were hoping to catch one like out like in a field or like on the edge of a, you know what I mean?
I was trying to flush them. Ideally, you want to catch them on the edge. So you want to, for early morning, like get up, be ready before the sun's even up.
Yeah.
And get there right at dawn or right before the sun sets is when the rabbits would start moving.
Crepuscular, they call it.
Yes, crepuscular. I think they're hunting, their advantage is being an ambush predator.
Of course.
And with you being there with them in the field, you completely ruin that, their greatest advantage. You're detracting from that.
Yeah.
So everything knows you're there. And on top of it, he was an imprint, so he would just scream his brains out, the whole time we're there.
Yeah, that's always good.
Yeah, and just would never stop. So I did it for a season. I can say I successfully hunted a great horned owl, but my conclusion was, at least for me, that it's not a suitable falconry bird. Now, I think anyone who's been successful with one, because I know there's a handful of people who have been, there's no doubt that they could have done so much better with any other bird.
Right. Yeah.
You just do it because you're interested in owls.
It's the novelty of it.
You just want to try something different.
If I was able to get my hands on a young great horned owl, I would take it. I I've always wanted one too, but I've never.
I think they're the coolest birds.
Oh yeah, they're so cool
and badass too, man. Just such a dangerous bird to everything else in their natural habitat.
Yeah, there was a biologist that went on the Meat Eater podcast, and he was a turkey biologist, okay, but he did a study, like a turkey mortality study, and basically they were studying all the animals in this one patch of woods in like some remote place or something. And anyway, long story short, the turkeys they were monitoring got killed by the great horned owl. The foxes, there was a fox or two in the area, young ones, they were killed by the great horned owl. Skunks, raccoons, possums, they literally killed everything in the area. So like that's the kind of bird, like, and then like I forgot where I was reading in a book or somewhere where they can literally fly out into like the middle of a lake, grab a duck at night out of the water, pull it out of the water and fly it to the shore and then eat it. That's like,
I believe it.
That's how strong and powerful they are. Like they really are. Like if you could just get them past like their like I know people that breed owls, a lot of owls and like a ton of owls, and they say that they're just dumb. And even that person says it, because I've heard like back and forth, people are like, they're not dumb, they just think differently, which is probably true, but they just do stuff where it's just like there's no reason to do that. You know what I mean?
Well, they don't have to be smart.
No, they just have to. And if I was going to ever hunt one, to be honest with you, I would go out before dark, of course, and I would probably just cut it loose and go sit in a log. And I'm serious. And just watch the GPS. Yeah, just watch the GPS.
Yeah.
And just let it sneak around and just crush something, and then I'll go up and do the trade-off.
There's a Jerry Jeff Walker song called "If You're Gonna Be Dumb, You Got to Be Tough."
Oh yeah.
And that's great horned owls.
Is that's real? That's going around on Instagram with that. People destroying themselves. Yeah, people. It's that song, and then every time I hear that song in a reel, I stop because someone's about to like kill themselves in the video because it's so funny. Yeah, it's so funny.
Their bite, going back to the great horned owl, their bite is like I bet that a great horned owl that wanted to could take your finger off.
You think?
With their bite, yeah.
I didn't realize it was that.
I was trading that bird off, and I was handing him little mice, and he missed a mouse and grabbed my index finger, like my bare index finger.
Yeah.
And bit pretty hard, like he thought it was a mouse. And dude, it was for real.
It was
no joke. It was no joke. Yeah.
Yeah. I know that the barred owl, which eats a lot of like crayfish and stuff like that, people always say that they have a really, really wicked bite. Speaking of barred owls, my wife, I don't even want to share the story because it's embarrassing for my wife, but I'm at work yesterday and she sends me a video, and we have these geese, a goose that was we had two geese, and then the female disappeared. Obviously she's on eggs somewhere. And then the male was just in the pond, and he'd be in the pond every day. He'd be eating grass. He'd be hanging out with my chickens. He'd be back in the water. And then the female comes back with, 3 chicks, goslings, as they say. And my wife sends me a picture, and she goes, this red-tailed hawk was swooping, trying to grab one of the baby ducks. And I zoom in on the picture. It was far away, in her defense. And I zoom in, and it's a barred owl sitting in a tree in my backyard. I said, well,
what an idiot.
Yeah, I said, well, that would be an owl, ma'am. Let's she's like, I don't know. I'm blind. I didn't have my glasses. I'm like, okay.
Oh, okay.
I said, glasses. I said, you've been around birds since we've been married. You don't know what the heck. Whatever.
She's the general public. Every bird is a red tail. Yeah.
Every bird's an eagle. We're an osprey.
Yeah. Right.
So, all right. So you flew an owl, but let's go. I want to go back. I want to hear more. So you were watching Conan the Barbarian. You were like, getting into it, thinking you wanted to do it. And then did you hunt at all? Did you ever get into like any other hunting? Were you like a bow hunter, gun hunter, like, well, anything like that beforehand?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So my dad actually owned an archery shop when I was a kid. He was an air traffic controller, and he went out on I think he was thinking he was going to be done forever at the time, but he was on. He took leave from the job and opened up an archery shop in Laurel Fork, Virginia.
Okay.
And me, my brother, my mom, and my dad, we all got really serious into archery.
Oh, nice.
And so me and my brother were competitive youth archery champions in Virginia.
No way. What were you shooting though?
At the time?
Yeah. Like what brand? What brand? What was your brand?
It was back then. It was Hoyt.
Ooh, back then, it's still Hoyt these days. It's the best.
Is it?
I don't shoot nothing but Hoyt.
Yeah, I want to get back into it. Anytime I've picked up a bow at somebody's house, they're like, "Damn, dude, you're pretty good." And I think it's one of those things you never really forget.
No, it's.
But yeah, so we used to shoot archery. My dad basically grew up as a mountain man in West Virginia. Like literally had an outhouse and had to pump water from a well.
Oh, that's cool.
He had to trap fur bears to support him and his grandma. So he instilled a lot of that stuff into me. But admittedly, I was never like a big like hunter.
Right.
Squirrel hunting and deer hunting a little bit as kids. And we used to fish like crazy for catfish, but wasn't super into it. Like the first time that hunting ever really grabbed me was falconry.
Right. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, it's nice to hear other people when they get into, when they hunt before they become a falconer. Sometimes it's not suspicious, but like when you get a prospective falconer that approaches you, it's nice to hear that they're like in the woods constantly, like they're doing all different kinds of hunting and they know how to be in the woods. They know how to handle themselves. But yeah, so you didn't get hooked when you shot your first deer with a bow?
No, I mean, it just,
oh my God,
it never really did much for me. It's like to this day, I don't really care much about it. Now I do want to buy a crossbow and just start shooting nuisance neighborhood deer.
Yeah. Well, the meat is good.
That's the thing with deer is like, you could make it super challenging if you want to.
Yeah.
But you certainly don't have to. And I don't really think you need to.
Depends what your goal is.
I think they're a legit pest. Whitetail deer on the East Coast. Yeah, I think they're a legit pest.
The insurance people would agree with you.
I mean, they overbrowse all the vegetation. They'll eat ground nesting and low nesting birds. Did you know that?
Yes, I did know that. I saw a video of one chowing down on a sparrow.
Yeah, and they probably eat baby rabbits too.
Probably. I mean, I saw you see that video of the red tail, the viral video, the red tail catching, came out of the trail cam, came down out of the tree, smashed a rabbit. The rabbit's squealing, going crazy.
I did see this.
And you see the doe come out and just like stomp the red tail to death. I was like, oh my God. Gee.
Yeah, man. There's too many deer. There's
in certain areas. Yeah.
Deer.
Yeah. I know in Jersey, it's like you can't even shoot a buck until you shoot a doe. So you gotta check your doe in and then shoot your buck. So like they're doing stuff to try to, there's zones in Jersey that are unlimited does, as many does as you want, which is insane.
Well, deer hunters, they run fishing game in our state. I don't know about any other state, but it's like the policies just revolve around them.
Yeah. Well, it's big business, deer hunting, like whitetail hunting. It's big business, man. The supplements, the gear, the scent control, like that's part of the reason why I kind of like, I used to be psycho into it. Like I was the opposite of you. Like I was like a nut job. Like I'd be like crawling around on my stomach, stalking deer. I had bucks I would target and I would like, yeah, like you showed up on this camera. Like me and my brother were like, my brother to this day is as psycho as I am about falconry. He's probably a little bit more psycho about shooting big whitetails. He's killed some monster bucks and he's like I get it. He's crazy into it. Like it's like an addiction. Same thing like with the birds.
I mean, I definitely get it. It's exciting. I can imagine because if you wanted to shoot deer, you could you set up a stand, throw some corn on the ground for a little while, figure out where the deer are traveling, sit up there a couple days, and you're gonna get one.
Yeah, it depends on what state you're in. Because in New York now, where I live, you can't. There's no baiting. You can't bait.
Well, are you allowed to to feed them throughout the season until
No,
a certain amount of time?
I don't think so. I don't think you can put out any food at all. Jersey,
Yeah,
you can. You can bear hunt with bait. You can deer hunt with bait. You do whatever you want.
It varies state by state, but regardless, if you figure out the deer's patterns and their habits and where they travel, you set up in the right spot, you're going to get one fairly sooner or later. But if you really want that target, if you want the big buck, the big trophy buck, I totally get it.
Yeah,
I know why people do it, but it's not for me.
Got it. Fair enough. So you were into some archery. You did that, and then so what was your first real life exposure to falconry besides Conan the Barbarian?
Real falconry?
Yeah, or like any Renaissance festival, like medieval times.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely saw that stuff. I remember the Carolina Raptor Center brought birds of prey to my middle school. That it's funny looking back. That seemed like such a big deal. My dad came that day.
Oh, really?
Yeah, took pictures. My dad always loved birds of prey. There's this dude who does it at the Renaissance Festival. Same guy every year. Knowing what I know now, some of what he does is pretty crazy. Like he flies this little falcon, and it'll vary what it is.
Little falcon, we're on a falconry podcast. What kind of falcon?
Well, that's the thing, is it'll vary year to year. It's been an Appomatto, it's been a peregrine.
Okay.
It just kind of depends. I guess he probably changes out the bird based on weight or
reliability.
Yeah, who knows?
Yeah.
But anyway, he flies this little falcon around in the woods, basically.
That's cool.
And he's lure flying it in the woods. And to me, I'm like, man, I could just see that little bastard flying away, or I definitely could see a Cooper's hawk coming out of the woods and grabbing it.
Yeah, those show guys, man, they that's one thing about the show guys. I'm friends with a show guy, Brian Bradley. He does it for a living up in New York. And he's when he flies his birds, they're like top notch, super fit, super, there's zero hesitation. He has it down to a science. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's great. It's impressive when I mean, you start off being impressed because you know nothing, and then you get into it, and you're like, okay, what they're doing sucks. It's not real falconry.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, it's fun just flying a lure, flying a bird around for people's entertainment.
And then you get past that, and you're like, wait a second, the amount of control they have over this bird in this situation is impressive.
Yeah,
so I'll give them props for that for sure.
Yeah. It's a whole different thing. You're got hundreds of people, you're flying birds in sketchy places.
People have got food, Yeah.
I'd be
the turkey legs at the Renaissance Festival.
Yeah. Not to mention the people in tights. I could see my bird going after one of those people.
Oh, dude.
Just grab somebody, friggin' nerd, and just grab them.
I think you cut a goshawk loose there, and it's just going to fly to another state at the Renaissance Festival.
Dude, or you never know. It's so ingrained, man. They might they have this ancestral DNA that they're just oh, this is where I belong.
they might find the guy playing king and land on him.
Start doing some medieval dance, hopping around. That's the Cook's hawk, man. They the Renaissance era, that was goshawks and peregrines. That's what they were doing. It's what they're all about.
And once you fly one, you get it.
Yeah, you just you just find yourself just slowly pulling on a pair of tights and putting on one of those those hats. You're like, oh no, stop!
Little velvety hat.
So
yeah. Yeah, so you could imagine if you were in a place imagine medieval England. I bet the place was loaded with game.
Probably, but then if you took any, then you'd get your hands chopped off or something.
Exactly. So if you were somewhere where you had permission, because I bet it was really I don't know.
It's still like that, dude. It's still like that. It's called the crown. The crowns, it's still a real thing. Even in Canada, certain areas in Canada, it's the crown land or something. It's
oh yeah. That's what it's called, crown land.
Yeah, man.
But my first real falconry was actually with who would one day become my sponsor. I met up with him and went out, and I think it was a red tail and someone else with 2 Harris hawks. I think is what the day was. It's kind of
how did
my
that
memory's a little vague.
Got it. How did that all come about?
It came about the way it should come about for people that are interested in falconry. I reached out to the state club.
Okay.
And I said, I'm interested in falconry. And the person who responded to me was actually, my future sponsor. He was the president of the club at the time.
Oh, wow.
And he said, well, I'll be going out this weekend. Come down. So I drove an hour and a half, like you should.
Yep.
At his command. And, woke up at 5 a.m., got there exactly when he told me to be there, and was good to go.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
He was probably sitting there waiting. He's like, you say, this guy's not going to show up. This guy's not going to show up.
Dude, they never show up.
No, they don't. Or they never. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I'm going out on Saturday. Never hear from him again.
Just never hear from him. Yeah.
Yeah.
He gave me some good advice one time after he became my sponsor, and I had a friend that wanted to get into falconry, and I was like, man, this guy, he's a great guy. He's a good friend, but he does not need to be a falconer. And I asked him for his advice. He said, tell him to buy North American Falconry and Hunting Hawks, which is the 2-volume, $125 book.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, and you'll never hear from him again.
That's a great book, though.
Yeah, but if somebody will buy that book, there's some interest, there's some dedication.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I should start telling people you need to buy that. You need to buy the Harris Hawk Revolution. You need to buy Matthew Mullenix's Kestrel book, and you need to buy the Red-tailed Hawk. Once you buy those, give me a call.
And you read them all, then you can call me.
To this day, I've never completed North American Falconry and Hunting Hawks.
Me neither. I read a bunch of different chapters out of it that I was interested in. It's a great book, though. It's a good read.
You see me? I'm looking at it right now up on my shelf.
Yeah,
it's a massive book.
You're quite the well-read guy. You got a lot of books, and you enjoy reading.
I do.
So you showed up, flew some Harris Hawks, you flew some Red Tails. Were you did it bite you and get into you then at that moment, or was there something another moment in time that got you?
No, it definitely.
Great. Okay. We're gonna have to edit that out, but okay. We keep it real. We keep it real out here.
If you notice, our podcast is explicit when you're browsing podcasts.
Oh, is it? I didn't even notice that. Yeah. It says explicit.
Yeah.
Did you put that, or does the hosting service put that?
Yeah, we put it on there.
Aren't you allowed one curse word before it becomes explicit?
I don't know. We haven't actually cussed yet. I just said something that was crude.
Right.
At any rate, so yeah, I wanted to do it, but I listened to him, and he told me, he didn't tell me directly, but I gathered. I'm like, you know what? My life is just not as put together right now as it should be, and it's not the time to start. So I did not start at that point in time.
What was the problem? What was the holdback? So people know.
I was just young, and my housing situation wasn't stable. Those were the days where I was moving once or twice a year.
Why? Why were you moving so much?
I mean, I thought that was pretty normal for
I guess, yeah.
For a young loser.
I guess. Yeah, I jumped around a little bit, but I was already into it before I started jumping around.
Yeah. Yeah. See,
so I just made it work wherever I was, but yeah, and I didn't move anywhere unless I was.
And part of the problem too, actually, was that he wasn't actually local to me. He was an hour and a half away. It wouldn't have worked out, him as my sponsor, and there was actually nobody near me at all that was doing falconry.
Okay.
So I couldn't get into it. Now, if there was somebody in my town, maybe I would have gotten into it and just made it work like you did.
Right.
Yeah. My focus back then was hanging out with friends. I was always been into reptiles. I was big into venomous snakes back then.
Oh, cool. What'd you have?
I legitimately had everything but black mambas and king cobras.
Oh, that's so cool. That is so cool.
Monocled cobras, gaboo vipers, native North American rattlesnakes.
You collect
arboreal.
Those? Did you collect?
Did I?
Yeah. Did you collect the rattlesnakes, or did you purchase them? Some states you can collect with a permit.
I collected some of them. I'm a snake hunter to this day. I like to go out and just catch snakes.
Me too.
So I have caught quite a few native North American rattlesnakes.
That's sweet.
it's a little foggy what I had caught and what I didn't, but regardless, I had a bunch. I had a whole room. Wherever I went, I usually had a room, and that's how I'd weed out women. Was they would show up to my place, and I would have like on my nightstand, I'd have a aquarium with a cottonmouth in it.
You just sleep, just staring at it before you go to bed.
Exactly.
Dude, I was the same way. Dude, I had my Kenyan sand boa next to my bed with the nocturnal heat lamp on. And during the day, you would never see him. So my friends would come over. They hated that snake because I'd have to go around and find him. But at night, dude, when I was going to bed, he'd poke his head out and he'd slither around. And if I had the pinky on the little feeding tray, then I'd see him sneak over through the sand and pop his head out and grab it. That was like one of my favorite snakes, the Kenyan sand boa.
Yeah, they're neat.
I had almost everything you could imagine too, besides anything venomous. I didn't do anything. Now, how'd you house them? Were you a rack system guy, or were you an aquarium?
I was
an enrichment guy.
No, I was a cheap guy. I just had whatever aquariums I could have with a metal lid on top of it, a screen lid with a landscape brick on top of it.
Yeah.
So here I've got these exotic deadly snakes in my apartment.
And a brick just separating them from getting loose and biting you in your leg.
That's all it was and the only thing I ever had escape was I was moving, as I tended to do.
Yeah.
I moved into this house, little 1-bedroom house, and I sat an aquarium underneath a dresser, and the aquarium had a little copperhead in it.
Okay.
And something fell off of the dresser while I was gone and punched through the screen lid.
Oh no.
So I get home and the copperhead is not in there. So
in terms of venomous getting loose in your house, that's not bad. That's not bad. That's not terrible.
Although I wouldn't want to get bit by one, but
no.
I did find that. But could you imagine if it was like a cobra and you never found it?
Dude. Yeah. And then you hear in the news, like 5 years later, when you're somewhere else, like old woman gets murdered by a venomous cobra in the wall. You know, you'd be like, "Oh, God. Wasn't me."
That was kind of. I wisened up with the venomous stuff eventually, and I was like, "This is just too much of a liability to have this stuff."
Yeah, and not to mention that, like, you can't take it out and play with it. Like, you could take it out with you could take it out, and do all the safety stuff with the sticks and stuff, but I love handling my snakes. I bred hog noses for a while. I had I had everything. I had literally everything. But yeah, I love to take them out.
Now, I'm to the point now where I'm just not interested in keeping an animal unless it's doing a job for me.
Entertainment and enrichment for your life.
Well, I say that, and I still have stuff. Like I've got a monkey-tailed skink.
Oh, I've got so cool, dude.
I've got a beaded lizard, which is venomous, but they're not deadly.
I didn't know you had a beaded lizard.
Yeah, you didn't know that?
No, I did not know that. Why do you not post these things?
I live quietly.
Yeah, apparently you got like all these different cool owls. And I just see like a dachshund killing a rat like once every 6 months. You see the people you literally have burrowing owls and screech owls. Like, you know how many views they would get you? Not that it matters, but I just don't want
to give people misconceptions about that stuff. It's separate from falconry. Like to me, the owls would be like if I had macaws.
I guess it's similar, but cooler, way cooler.
Yeah, definitely cooler.
How big is the enclosure for the monkey tail skink? Because I wanted one with all my heart, but I don't really feel like building like a 4x6 screened in misting enclosure. It's not that big. It's like a 3-4 foot tall, maybe 2 feet deep, and like 4 feet wide. That's doable. And you have missed it and stuff. I heard they're nasty though. Oh, dude, so mean. It's so ridiculously mean. I open the cage and it will come out. It will attack you. Jeez. And I'm not saying it'll be defensive where it's just sitting there and you go to touch it and it like whips around to try and bite you. He will come charging out of I've got like the big cork bark tubes inside of it. Yeah. He'll come charging out of that stuff to try and bite me. Why do they like that? They just eat leaves and stuff, right?
Yeah.
They don't even eat they don't even eat like crickets and
No.
meal. They just eat leaves, and they're that angry all
Yeah.
the time. Like, come on, man, relax.
Yeah, they're complete herbivores, but they
Typical
are
vegan. Am I right?
typical vegan. But I want to build part of me wants to build the big walk-in enclosure and have multiple killed skinks.
They live in communities, don't they? They'll breed in a group. Yeah, that would be pretty sweet.
They give live birth. They have like one baby, I think, at a time.
Yep, one baby, and then it stays with the mom, doesn't it? Like they hang out together for a while.
Yeah.
They're super cool.
Interesting.
They really are, man. I was super into I really wanted one really bad, but they just live. When you live in a very small place where me and my wife were renting, it's too much. So we did as much as we could. We had the bearded dragon, which is my wife's super low starter pack. So she got the bearded dragon.
That's a great pet, though.
Yeah, oh no, you can't beat it. But she loved that thing. She'd feed it lettuce and mealworms, and And then I had all my hog noses, breeding them, het this, albino that, crossing them, switching them. I had one of my favorite snakes ever was a rubber boa. They are so neat.
I tried those one time.
They're just super chill.
They're very bad eaters.
Mine, that was why I liked mine, because it ate like a pig. Like I would put 6 pinkies in there and he would eat. And I put my phone, I had a video, and I prop my phone up over the enclosure, and I put it in time lapse mode, and he just was like a train. He just ate all 6 in one sitting, and then went back under his little hide and just went back to sleep. I had a sweet setup though. I had it just the right humidity. Everything was perfect. So maybe that's why. I don't know.
So yeah, I've got turtles and tortoises. Do you know that?
No, what kind?
I've got radiated tortoises, which
yes, they're hard to get, aren't they?
They're hard to get,
and they're endangered.
They are endangered. So if you buy them, you have to have you either have to buy them in the state you live in, or you have to have the permit to transport them across state lines.
You breeding them?
I hope to. I've got 6 of them.
Okay. Wow.
Yes.
That's pretty cool. That's all. Any other species of tortoise?
That's the only tortoise that I have. And then I've got I've got a pond, like a water feature pond in my yard with that's enclosed, that I have wood turtles, which are native up your way. They're cool. Not native here. And Blanding's turtles.
I'm not familiar with that.
I don't know if you probably have them in New York, but this is about as far south as you could keep them outside. If you try and keep any of these species somewhere like Florida, it's too hot for them. But the Blanding's turtles have been known to like bask on ice flows, like in the Great Lakes.
That's crazy.
Like a chunk of ice. Yeah.
Jeez. That's so cool.
They're cool turtles. Y'all look them up sometime.
I'm going to take a look. Okay. So listen, we could talk.
Yeah, that's what I got for now, but I'm always back and forth.
Yeah. We could talk about reptiles for 5 hours and people are probably nodding off. So, I just realized that we were just talking about turtles and reptiles for like literally 10 minutes straight. Okay. So everything wasn't working out. You're too busy playing with your snakes. And then I guess you must have moved, got settled down, and then you said, you know what, I got to do this. I'm assuming that's what happened.
Yeah.
Were you married or not married?
Yeah, that's the short version of what happened. Married. Yep.
Okay.
I was going to say at the time, I've been married full time. Okay.
Right.
Married, decided it was time to get back into it, reached out, tried to look up the guy that I went out with the first time, and lo and behold, he was president again. He took some time off and he was president again, and he was in my county. And now at this point I had moved near him just by coincidence. So awesome. His name is Bob Pendergrass. He's a well-known falconer to a lot of the old school folks. Okay. He doesn't do much on the internet, but he was a NAFA Southeast director.
Oh, wow. Cool.
He used to go out with Mike McDermott and pull Sharpies and Cooper's Hawks from nests. Just a great guy. I was incredibly lucky to have him as my sponsor. But I did what you should do once again. I beat brush for a full year or full season. He told me to go out with as many different falconers as I could, so I did that. I made it a point to go out with as many people as I possibly could. I think he did that so I could see what I liked and what I didn't like, and to see the realities of falconry and that it's not always, a raging success.
Right.
Yeah, did that for a season, and then at the end of the season at the picnic, all that time I never asked him to be my sponsor. And then at the end of the season, I said, "Hey, would you be willing to be my sponsor?" And he said, "Yeah, I would." So
That's
there
a
we
good
go.
sign.
Now me and him we're among the best of friends to this day.
That's nice when you can get that,
So
man.
we've kept up a close relationship. Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes it's
But
so many different dynamics in sponsor and apprentice that doesn't always go. I lived at my sponsor's house. Like I literally lived there for like 3 years in his basement. Like talk about moving around, and it's just nice when you have a sponsor like that where you're like close with and you stay close and you bounce ideas off of and they're knowledgeable and they still help you, with different things. They give you their opinion. You have debates. Like it's great, You don't always get that with a lot of these guys.
to this day, I still listen to whatever he tells me.
Yeah, nice. That's good. That means he's a good falconer,
Yeah. He's a great falconer, and his advice is always good advice.
It's good to have somebody like
So
that.
yeah. So I sponsored, or he sponsored me. I got my first red tail. He's not super strict, so the first red tail I trapped was a small male.
Okay.
A tiercel, a small tiercel red tail. Too small, really. Looking back, it was too small. I remember when I presented it to him, he said, he goes, "Well, he's kind of small, but I imagine you probably want to keep him, don't you?" And I was like, "Yeah, I do." And he goes, "Okay, well, you can keep him." So he helped me fit him up with gear, told me how to take care of him, took him home. And a couple of days later, he got really sick. And I took him to the vet. The vet checked him out. They didn't really know. And he died. Long story short, he died within a few days of trapping him. And I took him in for an autopsy. And the autopsy was he had a pre-existing heart condition. So,
okay.
He was one of the many birds who was destined to die.
One other way that a juvie can die, I guess, a heart disease.
Yeah, pre-existing heart condition. You and me know what we know now. We just assume Asper or something like that.
Right.
But no, it was some sort of heart defect that he already had.
It's crazy.
So he was one of those birds that was going to die. So I went out, and my sponsor said, "If you don't want to do it anymore, I understand. But if you do, let's go out and get another bird." So of course I went out and got another bird and trapped. This was a good size male red tail.
Okay.
He flew at like 925 grams.
All right.
Just big enough to kill squirrels.
Road trapping.
Yeah, road trapping, of course.
Were you with your sponsor, or was it like you went out on your own?
Yeah. No, I was with him.
Okay.
He put the fear into me. He had said early on that he's very pessimistic. He's a great guy, but he's very pessimistic. He's entertained the idea that we may not even be able to catch a bird that season. And I knew nothing, of course, at the time. So I'm like, oh God.
Yeah.
We might not be, it was going to kill me if I couldn't catch a bird. That was running through my head the entire time. That if there was a possibility that I was going to have a falconry license, have a muse, and not be able to have a bird.
Yeah.
Knowing what I know now, you can get a bird. If you want a bird, you can get a bird.
Yeah. But I mean, road trapping is hard, though, because you got to cover a lot of ground and you got to get the right setup. And, you can see birds. They might be hags. It's road trapping's hard. The ridge, I mean, like we saw with Paul's episode about trapping, like the ridge, it makes a huge difference. But the road trapping is the way most of us trap, and the way I got most of it. When I wanted a red tail, I just got in the car and started driving.
Yeah, and once you know your area, you can find, the places that red tails hang out.
Yep, exactly.
So, or if it's early season, you can kind of be in the general area where the young have dispersed from the nest and probably get those young.
So you drove around with your sponsor, you dropped the trap, you got a nice, decent sized male, and how'd that first season go?
That first season, I got, I think it was at least 30. It was probably like 31, 32 head of game that season.
It's good.
Yeah, I mean, you're not setting the world on fire, but I think for your first season, it's not bad, especially on this part of the country.
Yeah, I was just going to say, especially where you live, where it's super thick and dense, and it stays thick and dense until like what, Aaron? Like November, December?
Yeah, there's guys down here that don't start hunting until mid-November, and even in mid-November, you still have some green on the trees.
It's crazy. Yeah, it's hard.
It sucks.
No dog. So you weren't running any dogs at that time, I'm assuming.
No, I had no dogs.
So you're just guerrilla mode, just going through the brush with a stick.
Just beating brush like a madman.
Nice. And you got mostly rabbits or mostly squirrels?
Mostly squirrels. I got 2 rabbits that season. I remember them.
Cool.
One of them was just a random, incidental rabbit in the middle of the woods where it shouldn't have been.
Yeah.
And the next one was another one in the middle of the woods. But I remember I looked at my friend and I was like, walk through that greenbrier. That's what we call it. It's just like a viney green briars. We call it greenbrier. Fancy name, right?
Is that the same as catbrier?
I don't know.
Because we got the guys call it, we call it greenbrier and catbrier. That stuff is like a chainsaw up here.
Yeah, it's really nasty stuff. But I told my buddy to walk through the greenbrier. There might be a rabbit, and he walked through, and there was a rabbit.
Nice.
The rabbit ran through the woods and broke through a field, and it was like this super dense woods, and then like a cut cornfield, and then I hear the squeal.
Nice.
And, that nothing beats the squeal. Run out there and boom, there it is. He's sitting on the rabbit in the middle of the field.
Nice. Such a good feeling, right?
Oh man, nothing like it.
What was the first kill like? How'd that feel?
First kill.
Talk us through that.
Oof. I remember the first kill. It was a sad kill, It wasn't great.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
It was a really stupid squirrel, and it was like on the edge of a parking lot, like in like a really small little tree, just doing really really stupid stuff.
Yeah.
And he caught it. I don't think it was a particularly spectacular flight, but he caught it because up until that point, I was like, man, what if I can't ever catch anything?
Right. Yeah. How long did it take before you got that kill?
I don't really remember exactly. It took a while. I think it was a couple weeks of hunting before I got that kill.
Yeah.
And I was too afraid to go out without my sponsor.
Okay.
So I wasn't going out, every single day. It was mostly just weekends,
When your sponsor was around to go with you.
Yeah. Finally caught something, super stoked.
Yeah.
I'm sure. Got tons of pictures.
Nice.
Actually, that squirrel is still frozen in my fridge.
No
I bet
way.
It's probably a dried up, freezer burnt mummy at this point.
Yeah. Dude, that's awesome. Yeah, the first kill is fun. And I think about it sometimes, my first kill, and I just remember shaking like crazy. And I was all alone. I didn't have the luxury of having my sponsor with me. I was just by myself, and I just remember shaking and quivering. And then I ended up getting footed. It was a whole story, but so you got that first squirrel, and then after that, did the bird like turn the light on, and then that's when you started catching more, or did it,
Yeah, it was pretty much right after that we started catching. It was a regular thing.
Nice.
To catch something. Looking back, I remember that first season. It was like every time I went hunting, it was like 4 or 5 falconers there.
That's fun.
It was fun, but now it was like your time to fly was very short. Your window to fly.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, it was very short. But I had what I would consider a successful first season for a first year.
100%
down here. Yeah.
Anywhere, that's good. 30 is good anywhere.
Yeah. So did my thing with that bird, my apprentice thing with that bird. He was a good bird. The next bird I got was a Harris hawk.
As an apprentice?
Yeah. So actually, as a second year apprentice, my sponsor told me, he was like, well, you know what you're doing with the red tail at this point. Now, of course, I didn't master the red tail, right?
Right. Yeah.
But I knew what I was doing. He said, you can trap a bird, you can train a bird, you know how to hunt. And he let me get a Harris hawk, which I probably wouldn't do that. Actually, let me go ahead and say, as a sponsor, I wouldn't let an apprentice get a Harris hawk.
Explain that.
Well, they own the bird, so it's a commitment. You can't just cut it loose and go.
Right.
I think you just finish strong with a red tail. He was going to let me keep my red tail or release it and trap a new one. I don't have strong opinions about that. I think it's up to the apprentice. If you want to keep the red tail and intermew it, there's something to be learned from that. If you want to release it and start again, there's something to be learned from that. So it's kind of 6 of one, half dozen of the other.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But I got the captive Harris hawk for better or worse, and she was what I like to call a beach ball Harris hawk.
What's that?
One that bounces around from owner to owner.
Oh, okay.
Bouncing around like a beach ball at a Nickelback concert.
Got it. That's good. That's good.
So a guy had her in Kentucky. She was a first year Harris hawk. What do we call it? Passage, but captive born. Dude had her in Kentucky. She the story goes his more experienced bird was killed by a coyote on the kill.
Wow.
So he didn't want to fly one Harris hawk. So he sold her to a guy in North Carolina. The guy in North Carolina couldn't get her catching anything and didn't have the patience to deal with her. And so he said he was interested in selling her. So I jumped on it. So I got her, busted my ass to get her going. Figured out
you did bags and stuff, or like, what do you mean by
no, didn't do any bags, just showing her game.
Okay.
Yeah, just showing her a bunch of game. And, they're without a more experienced Harris hawk there to teach them. It's pretty tough just to train a fresh Harris hawk because they don't know, their ass from a hole in the ground. So they're a squirrel's in the tree above their head and they have no idea it's there.
Right. Well, that's
they have no instinct at all.
Yeah.
To hunt squirrels. So, worked hard to get her to put it together, and she put it together. I actually think I caught less that season than I did with the red tail.
Well, that makes
sense. My memory's a little cloudy.
That's good. Just kidding. Everybody relax.
But she ended up being a great bird and did really well. I met a guy in North Carolina named Eric Harold, real crazy, controversial falconer. He got into a fist fight with some other guys here.
Why?
Other falconers. All right, so this is a little diversion. I was not around for this. This was pre me. The story goes there was a field meet going on in Wilkes County, North Carolina, which is one of the moonshine capitals of the world. So it's in the hills in North Carolina. Eric is from that area. We need to get him on this podcast, by the way. That would be really funny.
It's already starting off sounding like we need to get him on here.
Yeah. So Eric is from there, and there were some guys from Eastern North Carolina. Yeah, well, they weren't all from Eastern North Carolina, but the core of the group is from Eastern North Carolina. And
outsiders.
They were outsiders. You ain't from around here, are you?
Yeah.
And so they were somewhere where they weren't supposed to be, according to Eric, right?
Okay.
Eric shows up and they're standing around and he's like, Eric has got this crazy like Southern accent,
Right.
Like the super thick Southern accent, and he cusses like crazy. And he was like, for lack of better words, he's like, what are you guys doing here? And they said, we're hunting. And he's like, well, not here. You're not, that one. And they're like, well, why not? And he's like, because you don't have permission to be here. And he's like, you need to go. And one of them was sitting on the ground and he said, no, this is all,
yeah,
secondhand story. I wasn't there to see this. This is just my understanding, my recollection of the story. This is what I've been told of the story. The dude sitting on the ground says, we'll leave when the property owner tells us to leave. And Eric was not the property owner.
Right.
So supposedly he walks over there and he spits. He like hawks a loogie and just spits in the dude's face on the ground.
You sure there wasn't any dip in that spit?
There might have been. And the dude understandably gets up ready to fight, and Eric's got the jump on him and like slugs him in the mouth as soon as he gets up. So they just get into this huge brawl. And
the other guys jumped in or what?
yeah, I think they jumped in, and I think they were just kind of trying to stop the fight.
Okay.
Because it was a whole bunch of them. They could have just, totally whipped his ass. So
it depends on how good Eric is.
I don't know. He's a wild man.
If he's from that area, he could probably scrap a little bit.
Yeah, who knows? But so that all went down.
So he spits in the guy's face. The other guy gets up. They start brawling. The other guys don't jump in. And then
I'm assuming they didn't jump in. I'm assuming they just broke it up. And then, they dispersed from there. And after that, there was a vote held at Burger King as to whether or not there were going to be repercussions for for what went down. And the officers of the North Carolina club voted that no, they weren't going to kick Eric out of the guild. That's what our club down here is called, the Falconers Guild. And so, yeah, Eric remained in the guild. And then those guys, that kind of was the beginning of a rift that we still have to this day. They started their own club.
Oh, wow.
So we have, they are the Carolina Hawking Club. And for a little while, they were pretty cool to me when I was an apprentice. I went to field meets there with them, and had a good time with those guys. But they stopped inviting your boy to their meets.
Why?
I don't know. I can't call it, brother. Can't call it.
That's weird. That's sad when stuff like that happens. I know, like PA is like that. There's like two different groups of Falconers in PA. Might even be three different groups, and they
now we have three. We have another guy who's from New Jersey that started another club, and I
think you told me that.
Yeah, we've got this strange little dynamic going on where they also participate in our club stuff.
It's weird. Yeah. Well, is it like what kind? Like, you know what I mean? Because like I've always thought about like it would be fun to start like a little, like an accipiter club or something in Jersey or like in the East. Like, and I wouldn't necessarily want to take members away from like the state club, but it'd be fun to have two different clubs. But is it like in your state with what you have going on? Is it like malicious? Like,
well, so the Carolina Hawking Club, I think those guys, I mean, they started that club because they were dissatisfied with the Falconers Guild, the oldest club.
Okay.
And I think they wanted to be more selective about who was in their club. They wanted to be able to exclude people if they didn't like them.
That's so stupid.
Which, like the old club, the Falconers Guild, which I'm actually the president of for just a few more days. It's open to anyone. Even the general public, somebody can join the club as an associate member.
Right.
They can't be a full member, but they can be an associate member. And then any licensed falconer can be a full-fledged member of the club.
Right.
Which I think is good. I mean, that way you don't want to click to control falconry in a state,
Yeah.
And I think the organizations should be democratic. Like, I don't like that about NAFA. We do not elect the president of NAFA.
I don't know if I knew that.
Yeah, they're appointed by the board of directors.
So how do they? What's the criteria of appointing them?
I honestly have no idea what their criteria is, but yeah, they are appointed. You do not vote for the president of NAFA. But I think the leadership of the falconry organizations needs to be voted on, which is why I think if you have a group of people and you're not happy with your state club and you want to see things change, then run for office, right?
Yeah, that's pretty much, that makes sense.
That's the way it's supposed to work, run for office. And so we already have this in the Falconers Guild, the oldest club in the state. We have a tradition. We got the framework. We got relationships with, even up to the federal. There's some relationships with the feds. We definitely have a strong relationship with the state.
That's great. That's the point.
Yeah. So that first rift happened after a good old fashioned Wilkes County fist fight.
That's so. Yeah, it's whatever. It's not for me to say. I'm not involved in it, but yeah, I don't understand why these I mean, granted, I'm not the best person to say because our Jersey club does really well, and they do a lot of good work and make everybody feel comfortable. They host great meets. They have a lot of good, they pick good locations with a lot of game. They have good speakers, like all that. So it's hard for me to say, but yeah, I'm not in the situation, but
I think the Jersey club's a model for what a club should be.
Yeah. You had fun at our meet, right? It was fun.
It was a blast.
It's one of the best meets there. I've been to a bunch of meets, and the Jersey meet is like so fun. It's just a lot of fun.
I'm a member now. I joined after that. Yeah.
Good for you. Yeah. But, I mean, it's so fun. We just have such a good time. Everybody's cool for the most part, and a lot of game, great speakers, and just like almost 200 people show up every year, sometimes more. Remember we had Lauren one year, and it was like, the staff at the hotel was like scrambling to get like chairs and stuff so people could sit because we had so many people show up for her speech.
Wow. Yeah. I think one of the issues that some falconers have is, if they want to exclude who's in their club, is some of them will have issues with what they call pet keepers.
Right. Yeah.
Falconers that are pet keepers.
I've heard of those before. Yeah.
Yeah. Which my opinion of that is, some of those pet keepers might be like older falconers.
Yeah.
Who are not as active in the field as maybe they once were. But, that's not to say not all older falconers are inactive in the field, because there are some old timers who still get out there. One of our idols is one of them. But, they have a problem with that, with members that are falconers that are not like active, serious game hawkers. And my take is let those people run the organization, let them set up picnics, let them organize the meets, let them get the hotels, all that stuff.
The whole club thing is, there's so states have different drama. Like I said, PA has some drama, and there's like 3 or 2 different clubs, and they kind of hate each other. And, if you show up at someone else's meet and like the other club hears about it, they'll like get all weird about it. It's kind of like, but like our sport unfortunately is so like, it's so polarizing. Like everybody has their opinions, and falconers have such strong opinions, and there's a lot of reasons for that. And over the years, I kind of thought about it and like analyzed it, and it's just a simple fact that there's so much that goes into being a falconer, and you rely so heavily on like your input from your sponsor, from people that you respect. And then when you hear their opinions, and then when somebody else gives us a different opinion, it becomes like this rift. And then you want to like defend your position because that's what you were taught when you first got into it. And it becomes, and there's a lot of arguing and infighting over like, minute details and stuff like that, which pushes people apart, which is kind of silly. But, like we were talking about earlier with the reptiles, for 20 minutes, we were talking about reptiles. It's the same thing there. I mean, if you go on someone's page and you just see a very simple video of someone explaining something about a snake or the housing, you go in the comments, man. It's just reptile guys ripping each other apart in the comments. Like most groups are like that, unfortunately.
I wonder if other sporting groups sometimes are like that. They're as dramatic as falconry groups are.
I don't know. I don't know. That's a good point. I just think that with what we do, there's so many details to what we do, right? So like we got to train a bird, we got to get a bird, we got to house a bird, we got to keep it alive all year, we got to fly the bird, we got to catch game, with these guys, you got to show up to a decent spot, you got to know wind, you got to know this, you got to put a hole through something, and then you're like, got it. As long as you weren't trespassing, poaching, or anything like that, like there's not much for people to say. I mean, obviously people probably speculate, but it's just a different thing. Like we have like an infinite amount of details. Like it's not enough to just fly a red tail and catch a squirrel. It's not enough to just fly a goshawk and catch a squirrel. It's like, is your bird's feather condition good? Are the talons sharp? Is it in good health? Is the housing acceptable? Do you have a good reputation? Do you not have a good reputation? Do people know who you are? Do you have a bad reputation that's unwarranted? You know what I mean? Like there's a million little tiny details that goes into stuff. I mean, you see it on these pages on Facebook. Somebody that's well known posts a picture of their thumb, and and everyone's in the comments like, "Oh, cool thumb, man, so cool,
bro. That thumb is sick.
That thumb is so badass, dude. Like, how'd you get that thumb?" And then I get some kid that nobody knows post like this incredible, beautiful wing over of their red tail. Zero interaction, zero comments, zero engagement because nobody knows who they are. So it's almost like they don't want to support the person that they don't know because they don't know who they are. Like, I don't want to like this comment because if this person's really a scumbag, you know what I mean? It's like,
I don't know if it's that so much.
Who knows?
I think, well, listen, so one thing I want to say is my involvement in the club, my state club, and I've been a staunch advocate for the Falconers Guild ever since I was a falconer because Bob, my sponsor, instilled that in me because it's very important to him. And so it became important to me. I probably burned bridges in my defense of the Falconers Guild.
Spitting on people because they weren't members?
Well, I don't know so much as spitting, but maybe speaking poorly of people because of my perception of how they were impacting the Falconers Guild. And I probably alienated a lot of people doing that.
Okay.
Even up until fairly recently, to be honest with you.
You want to issue any apologies publicly?
I'll just make a general statement and that no, I don't actually. Fuck those people.
We just lost half our listeners just left.
Yeah, no. But the reality is, I mean, it's been tough on relationships, being such an advocate for the Falconers Guild. And I have been probably unnecessarily hard on people over the past 3 or 4 years. So for anybody out there that I have been hard on, or maybe I said things that were not the nicest, I would apologize for that. Yeah, absolutely.
We're going to clip that and put it in a reel for everybody to hear. No, I mean, I've gotten in fights with many people on social media, really bad fights, but not over anything, nothing serious. And and it's always, and the funniest thing is everybody that I've ever fought with, except for the Mink Man, everybody else that I've ever fought with, I'm like close with them now, which is the funniest part.
Well, me and Tyler Sladen had words years ago, and obviously we've patched things up.
Yeah.
Me and another guy, I'll just speak very vaguely about him. I recently reconnected with somebody that me and him had some pretty intense words about each other. And I'm to the point now where I'm doing my best to try and let bygones be bygones. And none of this stuff is worth destroying relationships over.
Yeah, it's not. It's really not. And it's just not worth it. Yeah, it's not worth it. And the one situation that was recent with the individual from Canada, I did reach out to her and said, do you want to squash this and just let it go? And she just blocked me.
Let's be honest. What happened there? I mean, she was potentially going to do some serious irreparable harm to you.
Yeah, she was going to beat me up.
If she was just going to beat you up, that'd be no big deal. But like she was trying to get you in trouble, like serious trouble. I mean, that's crazy. Let's save that for your episode, though. Yeah,
we could save all that, but yeah, stuff like that is separate. I think stuff like that is where, like, I'd argue with somebody. If somebody was doing something similar to that situation, I would argue with them too. If I saw it in person, bullying and mocking, and I would say something in person. At the gym, if someone's bullying somebody that's whatever, I would say something. That's kind of the way I viewed that situation, was just trying to. Just
we know that
it.
Stuff wouldn't have happened in person. Most of this wouldn't.
No, none of it will happen. The internet allows people to have big words because they don't have to stand in front of the person that they're saying it to.
None of us are as hard as Eric Harold.
Yeah. Dude, just spit on somebody because they're in your field, dude. That's
spit
so
on
awesome.
Somebody and then punch them.
Dude, that's like, we have to get him on because that's like, we should give him a little patch that's, like that, it's like Falconer sharing fields. That's a whole nother thing. Like, dude, it's like weird.
He's a wild man.
That's awesome.
Rumor is he's not allowed to go to, he has since moved from the area anyway, but he loves sports. He got so like so heated and volatile over like high school sports, spectating high school sports, that I think he's not allowed. That's the rumor. He's not allowed to go to like Wilkes County high school sporting events
just
anymore.
Spit on some lady that's like cheering too loud for the other
screaming
team.
And cussing.
That's so funny.
I could hear him saying this. He would say, "Well, God, ref, what are you blind?"
Yeah, that's hilarious.
So we need to get him on. So
we got anyway. So back on track. Where were we? So you flew a Harris
back
hawk?
to him. Yeah. The reason I brought him up was he introduced me to rabbit hawking in North Carolina.
Oh, wow.
Because rabbit hawking is really not much of a thing down here. Because rabbit hawking either requires hard work and or dogs.
Right.
To catch rabbits.
Most places on the East Coast, unfortunately, is like that. It's not like you got to work to get these rabbits.
Yeah. Where squirrels, you can walk through the woods with your hands in your pocket with a bird following you around and catch squirrels. Yeah. But rabbits require work. And it also requires being able to read the habitat. And Eric, I can credit him with saying that he showed me how to read the habitat. I wouldn't really know how to find rabbits. It was just random rabbits I'd kick up here and there. But after hawking with him, quite a few times, my second and third year, he really kind of showed me how to do it.
That's what you need, man. That's what every new falconer needs. There's somebody knowledgeable to show them habitat, how to find. And that's the other thing, man. It's like, not only do we have to take care of our birds, we have to house our birds, we have to keep them in good feather, good health, and then you have to find quarry and read the quarry and figure out where you're going to actually go. And that's like a whole nother aspect that we have to hurdle through,
Yeah.
Like, it's very interesting.
Yeah. Good falconry is not easy. That's for sure.
Yeah. And that's falconry in general, man, is just that situation with you and Eric. It's passing information and skills down from one generation to the next. And that's so cool. And I think it's cool. I think it's neat when you see situations like that. So, okay. So then you flew a bunch of stuff. You don't have to go through every bird, but
Yeah. So I flew Harris hawks primarily. Actually going out with Eric, he had a Springer Spaniel and the dog helped quite a bit find rabbits. It was a good dog. I think he's still alive. Ace is his name. Remember, Eric would just scream and cuss at Ace all day. So
can we get this guy on next week? Can you reach out to him?
We could have probably called him right now and he would jump on, but
I want to get him on.
So going out with Ace was what made me realize I need a dog, but quite literally I remember Ace got in between my bird and a squirrel running across the ground. Like was literally in the way.
Right.
My bird had to like go around Ace to continue after the squirrel. And it didn't catch that squirrel because of that. Right. And it was that moment that it clicked. I said, I need a dog that's small enough to where it's literally not going to get in the bird's way. So Dachshunds it was.
Nice. So you just pulled Dachshunds out of a hat and you're like, you just went from the dog got in the way. I need a dog that's small. And then you just immediately went to Dachshunds, or what prompted that? Did you meet Teddy? Did you?
No, I didn't meet Teddy at that point. I think I just did some thought, I stopped and did some research about dogs. And I think I just kind of, Dachshunds were really what jumped out at me as the dog that would work best for my situation. I contacted a lot of people. Teddy's not easy to get a hold of, by the way, if you don't know someone that has her number.
It's true. Yeah.
Yeah. So I couldn't get a hold of Teddy. So she wasn't even my first contact. I looked around and somebody got me in touch with Jill Chidlow of Wilderness Runs Dachshunds.
Mm-hmm.
So my first dachshund ever came from her, and good dogs still hunt that dog to this day. She's an incredible dog. Love her to death. I got a few more dogs from Jill over the years. Met Teddy. I met Teddy when I picked up my first dog. Teddy met me there. Yeah, Dachshunds ever since then have been a huge part of my falconry.
Did Jill talk you through training and stuff like that, or did you kind of figure it out as you went?
Teddy did mostly.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I think Jill gave me basics, of course, but Jill seeded the Teddy, and that Teddy was the expert in hunting a dog because Jill doesn't hunt dogs. So Teddy told me what to do and just went from there.
Yeah.
My first dachshund, like I just trained the shit out of her, you know. I did drags like crazy.
Yeah.
I gave her rabbits like crazy, you know. She was just she was so well trained. And now I don't think I have another dog that's as well trained as she was. We'll put it that way.
Right.
Just because I had all the time in the world for her, my only dog.
Yeah, I'm noticing that with my puppy. Like I put so much effort into Ginger, and now I have this puppy, and it's like I have to like do it all over again.
It's tough, and I currently have 6 dachshunds, so
that's a lot. That's a lot.
It is a lot. So they have varying levels of being trained, but they're all good dogs in the sense that they will kill game, they track game, they respect the birds. So that's what it's all about.
That's all you need.
Yeah. And then, you know, along the way, I got a Cooper's Hawk and flew that, caught rabbits with it, caught miscellaneous birds with it, enjoyed the experience. I remember my sponsor, he said that Cooper's Hawks are his favorite birds. One day he looked at me and he said, everybody says they're a nightmare. Is this a nightmare? And I said, no, it's not at all. Like, this is a good bird.
Passage?
It was this weird stage of like getting ready to branch in a few days. So they were still confined to the nest, and she probably would have started branching in like 3 or 4 days. So probably not an ideal time to get her, but it was like strike while the iron was hot. That was my opportunity to get her, so I got her.
You climbed?
My friend climbed.
Yeah, was it a hard climb?
It was in a live oak tree, which is it's probably not something you have up there.
We got oaks up here.
No, it's called a live oak.
Oh,
they call them live oaks because they keep their leaves all year, even during the winter.
Okay, I thought you were saying live. I'm like, I got a live oak in my backyard.
It's what you see like in Charleston, South Carolina, or in Central Florida. They're like the oak trees that have like the real like crazy spidery limbs.
Okay.
And it was really wet, really like mossy, so it was like real slippery.
Sounds fun.
Yeah, so he was roped off onto it, and he got it for me.
Nice. And how'd you train it? Was there a lot of fear you had to work through? Did you tether it right away? You know what I mean? Like,
so no, I didn't. I let it kind of, you know, live in a basket for a while, and then when it could stand, I tethered it, and then I tethered it to a pole perch, a PVC pipe pole perch.
Okay.
And then training it was, you know, flicking tidbits while it was on the glove and getting it to return to the glove that way. So the repetition, you teach it that food doesn't come from the glove, but while you're sitting on the glove, food happens.
Right. So you were doing like, were you doing like restrained pursuits where you're like had her on a creance and you're throwing tidbits on the grass and she's flying down and grabbing them?
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Did that, would throw the lure. She was just super, it was not a challenging experience for me.
Okay.
It went really well, and bagged her early on some domestic quail, and then went out and shown her rabbits. She caught, you know, she did great with rabbits. The only downside was as the season progressed and the rabbits got bigger,
right?
They would just buck her off.
Yeah, I could see that happening. Was that your target? Was that your target quarry? Or were you like, you were just like hoping she'd catch some rabbits, but you were going for birds and stuff? Like, what was your...
It was, yeah. I had hoped to be able to car hawk her on starlings, but I found that we don't really have that many starlings here. Okay. You know, there's huge murmurations in some random places, but I've never been able to drive around this area and reliably find starlings.
Okay.
I could see them on lines and stuff, but I'm not going to be able to go out every single day and find starling slips on the ground.
Right.
So we just went out and kicked up rabbits, and she caught them. And
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Did she get beat up a lot? You broke a lot of feathers doing that?
No, not really. The only feathers she broke were husbandry errors on my part.
Right.
So she taught me a lot about feathers, and I ended up releasing her, about 3/4 of the way through the season because I wasn't going to have time to fly her anymore. And the rabbits were getting there were no more young, small, rabbits for her. So I didn't want her to just waste away on a perch. So I fattened her up and released her.
Yeah. Yeah, she'd probably be fine. There was no aggression with that bird because of the age you got her. Was there a lot of fear that you had to work through, or was it somewhere in the middle?
There was really not much fear. I wouldn't call it aggression. Somebody told me it was aggression the way she would hit the glove.
Right.
But I mean, she never came after my face. Believe it or not, I used to put her on a pole perch, which, I'm very anti pole perch now.
Because of that?
No, it's because you look stupid with a pole perch.
Pole perches are great. What are you talking about? You got to keep the length of the jesses and the leash is the key. If it's too long, then they're going to destroy their tail feathers.
Hang on. When I say pole perch, I'm talking like in the field, like a cad.
That's a T perch.
A T perch. Excuse me. T perch.
Pole perch is a very common item. It's a very good.
No. Yeah, I'm sorry. Pole perch is fine. T perch out in the field.
Yeah, we agree there.
Yeah. So I would put her on a T perch. I would put her up on the T perch, and my sponsor was like, he's like, that's just giving her a good angle to hit you in the face. He's like, she can get some speed when she hits you in the face from that.
That's funny.
But she never did.
Did you ever get like the feeling that she was going to?
No, never did.
Oh, okay.
Like, it's not an interesting story because it was like really no fear, really no aggression, just a solid bird.
That's awesome.
Yeah?
Why the heck you cut her loose? I
ran out of game. That's what we're doing. We're not keeping pets. We're hunting game.
You gotta start throwing some seed on the side of the road, man. You're missing out.
Well, I tried. We do have sparrows here, and I tried to show her sparrows, and they didn't even register to her.
Wow, really?
She didn't care about the sparrows. So maybe if early on I would have imprinted her on sparrows, the prey imprint thing.
Right, yeah.
Maybe she would have went after them. Yeah, maybe she would have recognized that as food. She had no problem chasing bigger birds. She would definitely chase bigger birds, but she would not go after sparrows.
That's interesting.
It was very weird.
That is interesting. Yeah, I dabbled with one Cooper's Hawk for 5 minutes, and so I don't know enough to speak on it.
I want to get a male. I do want a male Cooper's Hawk, and I want to imprint it on sparrows early on.
Yeah, that'd be fun. Yeah, I've always wanted to fly coops, like an imprint or like exactly the stage that you got yours at, where like the parents raised it most of the way, and then I get it like right when it's still in that mental state, and then I could just transfer it over to falconry. That's like I think they call it like a family bird is the term, but that term is is it branching yet? Is it flying around? I'm not sure when the family bird stage starts or if a brancher is considered a family bird. But I would imagine at any point where the bird can stand and is slightly feathered after being raised by the parents would be not, and then that from before it disperses would be a good time to grab one, I would imagine.
I would think so. Yeah. I think Cooper's Hawks have a bad rap. I think they're, in the right hands, they're a great bird. Problem is prey base, with anything. It's like, I want an eagle. Like that's my ultimate goal is to fly an eagle.
Yeah.
Right. What am I going to fly? Yeah, exactly. But what am I going to hunt with it? Obviously, I'm of the opinion that unless for me at least, I know good and well, I'm not going to have the time to take enough trips out west to do an eagle justice here on the East Coast. Yeah. So, that's why it's a dream of mine to live out west in the state that has jackrabbits, because if I want an eagle, that's what I got to do.
Yeah, or kill geese with it. Can you fly one down in North Carolina? Are you allowed to?
Yeah, you're allowed to. There's a couple people here with them.
And what do they hawk them?
Earlier I was saying how I'm trying so hard to be nice,
So they don't actively game hawk them.
I'm gonna make the assumption that they do have plans to hawk them.
Right. Okay.
But they're not. I don't think they're currently doing it.
Yeah. Because you're not going to go squirrel. I mean, you could. I mean, there's those videos of the Benelli's eagle in Europe destroying gray squirrels.
Yeah, Benelli's are so much smaller though.
They don't look smaller. My buddy just got one, and it does not look small. It's beefy.
I don't think the female would be suitable for squirrels, but I do think the males would be.
Yeah, maybe it's the males in the videos. But yeah, if I got a golden eagle tomorrow, the first thing I would do is try to go kill groundhogs and friggin' Canada geese. That's the first thing I would do. Groundhogs would probably be risky though. I just ran one over today by accident. The guy behind me probably thought it was on purpose. Throw it in the
freezer?
I turned around, pulled over. Yeah, I got it. It's in my freezer. Yeah,
good.
I gutted it real quick, put it in the freezer. Yeah, it was coming across the road, and I knew there was people behind me. So I'm like, if I swerve and kill it, like you're gonna call it cops, like I'm a psycho. So I tried to put my front two tires, because it was it was three, it was 1/3 in the middle of the road. So like it was like I either had to drive all the way in the left lane or try to swerve to the side to put it in between my tires. And the first two tires missed it, and then the rear tire just crushed its skull.
Ooh!
So I just went back.
It went quick.
Yeah, it went quick, and then I went back and grabbed it, gutted it, and put it in my freezer. It's good meat. But the guy behind me, I tried to act like I was like, oh. Tried to act like I was sad or something. I was like, I put my hand up in the air. Like, come on.
You cover your eyes.
Yeah.
Oh, no, like, shucks. Anybody looking? All right.
Yeah.
I'll throw this bitch in the back.
Exactly. Exactly. That was pretty much how it went. But I didn't want the guy to think I was a psycho behind me.
Yeah. So I'm sure he still does. But so, yeah, Cooper's hawks, great birds. I want to fly another one. I do think a male is probably the best thing for somebody in the Southeast. I think
just to catch the little birds and stuff, you mean?
Yeah. Now, we do not have ducks. We don't have duck slips reliably here. On occasion, you can find them in little retention ponds inside business parks, but it never freezes here. I mean, it does freeze, but the water never really freezes here. So you will never catch the ducks in creeks like you will up north or out west.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say. You probably
big ponds and lakes, they do not freeze.
Yeah, there's not much reason for them to go into the streams necessarily unless the big water freezes. Yeah, up here, the best slips, the best time of year to go duck hawking for what I do with the goshawk is when it gets real cold and all the ponds and lakes and stuff freezes, and then the streams are still flowing. All the ducks flock to the streams, and then you can find them. But yeah, down by you where everything doesn't really freeze, it's like
that doesn't happen here.
Right. That's interesting.
Yeah, they just carry on as usual out on ponds and lakes, and you're never going to catch one on a big pond or lake.
Yeah. So
you
probably you have to find like
ducks, a female Cooper's hawk would probably work pretty well for that. Pheasants, of course. Western cottontail, I bet, are really good for Cooper's hawks.
Yeah, I could see that.
They're smaller, I believe, the Western bunnies.
Oh, yeah. Some of them up here are like friggin' big, friggin' juicy.
Yeah.
So you flew the Cooper's hawk. You had success with it. You released it. Did you go immediately into goshawks after that? Or did you have like, you kept flying red tails?
I think it was the next season I decided I wanted a goshawk. So I got royally screwed by somebody. I bought an imprint female goshawk. And Casey knows the story, but I'll just share it. I bought an imprint female goshawk. It was a baby. I picked it up at 9 days old. The dude who bred it, he has DVDs of his birds, goshawk training DVDs and stuff like that. So I was like, all right, this dude's legit. He's going to be a good guy to buy from. Get the bird, raise it up, doing everything I should do, and it tops out at 800 grams.
Yeah.
So I get a DNA test, and it is, in fact, a male.
Did he not DNA test the birds when he sold them?
He supposedly did. So regardless, I paid for a female and got a male. I didn't want a male. I flew him. I caught some stuff with him. I was complimented by how well behaved and how well mannered he was. I ended up selling him to a friend that lives in Kansas and who actually ended up not having time for him, and he sold him to someone else. So who knows how he's doing now?
He's a beach ball goshawk.
He's bouncing around like a beach ball at a Nickelback concert. So
that's funny.
So that was it for me for a couple of years, and then I went out west and trapped some wild Harris hawks and flew those. Enjoyed those guys, and got the itch to get another goshawk. So I bought a chamber raised goshawk from Lance Christensen in Iowa.
Nice.
Flew that last season, and I think I caught more than I remember. Mike McDermott during an interview, he said his first season with his chamber raised, and this was decades into his falconry, he caught 40 some head a game in Missouri. And I'm bad with numbers, but I keep track of them, but off the top of my head I can't remember. I think it was like 51. I think I caught 51 head a game with the bird.
Nice.
So I think I did better than everyone else with a chamber raised goshawk last year, a first year chamber raised goshawk.
Like in the whole country or the world, you mean?
No. I'm just going to make the assumption that I'm going to make an assumption that even in the country there were people that did better than me, but out of the people we know.
Right, yes.
Yeah,
I only know a couple people that fly chamber birds, and you did very well.
Yeah, so I really enjoyed the chamber bird. I feel like you've got a goshawk that, like Seth Roy says, that knows it's a goshawk. It's, imprints have a foot in both worlds, as they say, in my opinion.
Yeah.
They're a weird thing. And the chamber raised goshawk, I think I wouldn't say is easier than a imprint, and I wouldn't say it's harder than an imprint. It's just different.
Right.
I mean, with the imprint, like you've said, Casey, you have to direct anger away or aggression away from you. You don't really deal as much with fear with an imprint.
Yeah.
But with the chamber raised, there's no aggression towards you, but there is the potential for fear. So you've got to, like Jimmy G said, you've got to work. You have to anticipate things with them.
Yeah.
You've got to be a better falconer.
It's controversial.
It's very controversial.
Apparently that's very controversial to say. But yes.
As someone who has flown Harris hawks, red-tailed hawks, Cooper's hawks, great horned owl,
yeah, right.
and goshawks, I can confidently say that, in my opinion, goshawks require more of you than those other species. Well, not the Cooper's hawk, but
I was going to say accipiters in general would they
require more of you as a falconer. Now, those other birds are great birds, capable of high forms of falconry, taking a lot of game, and no falconry is easy in my opinion. If you want easy, get a shotgun, get a 410 and go out in the woods to shoot squirrels, right?
Yeah.
That's easy. Falconry is not easy, even with Harris hawks. So that's just my opinion on it.
It's good, valid opinion.
Something about accipiters though grabs me. I love them. Maybe it's they're kind of reptilian in their mannerisms and their way of thinking, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Harris hawks almost feels like you're dealing with a mammal in a way.
Yeah, it's like a dog. A lot of people say it's like a dog.
Yeah, it's unusual. They're weird birds. Red tails, you got a bird. They're kind of like, I think a red tail is kind of like that in between. Red tails are very easy to manage and very easy to deal with.
For the most part, yeah. Every now and then you get one that doesn't settle down nice, or it's a little weird with certain situations. Or I had one that every year after I took her out of the molt, she would always try to grab me in the face for like the first 2 weeks.
Oh man, sounds wonderful.
It was so weird. And then it just stopped, and then it would never happen again. And then the next year when I took her out of the molt, and then I think I narrowed it down that, in my youth, I was dropping her weight too quick to try to get out in the field. And I was like,
that mad rush to get out there and start catching.
Exactly. And I wasn't thinking that, and then the bird was like in this, she's used to seeing me open up the door and throw food in like an idiot because I didn't have a chute or anything. So she's like seeing my face, getting fed, seeing my face, and there's no food. And then it's like something switched in her brain. I don't know. But yeah, a red tail is, in the grand scheme of things, it's a simpler bird to fly. There's more room for error. They're more forgiving. They're hardier. They're not going to die as quick. The feathers don't break as easy as an accipiter.
I've never had a red tail break a feather.
I had a couple break feathers over the years, but yeah, it was because I'm an idiot and I had my housing was messed up or whatever the case is, or my trade off when I was young. But yeah, if you're careful and diligent, you're not going to break feathers.
Yeah. But going back to what I was saying there, falconry is not easy in general. And you just find the bird that speaks to you, that you're interested in, that works for your situation, and fly it.
Good deal. Can't ask for anything more than that.
So I'm actually I like accipiters. I like goshawks enough that I'm getting a goshawk from one of our sponsors.
Aha, you are. Yeah. Shout out to Seth Roy of North Mountain Goshawks.
Yeah, I'm getting a tiercel from Seth this year. Another chamber raised bird.
I'm so excited for you.
I asked myself why, and I can't really say why. It's just because I like goshawks and I want more.
Yeah. They're like your venomous reptiles.
Yeah, exactly.
You just need more of them.
Yeah, you just need more. You need a whole room full of them. But it's for me, I'm committed to always trying to be a better falconer and always trying to learn. And I did not fly to completion a tiercel goshawk. So I believe that if you don't have experience with something, you should probably just keep your mouth shut about it.
Yeah. Don't argue to the death over something that you've never done or experienced. I mean,
Yeah. So that's kind of the reason why I flew the owl, was because everybody has opinions about owls, but how many people have actually flown one?
True.
Same thing with Cooper's hawks. Everybody has an opinion about Cooper's hawks. How many people have actually flown a Cooper's hawk?
That's a good point.
So get that experience, and then you can be a real asshole about those birds. It gives you a license to do that.
Agreed. Yeah, agreed. Definitely. Yeah. So, our sport is polarizing. There's no other way to say it. People have got very strong opinions and they feel personally attacked when a simple statement is made, and there's no reason to be that way. You know what I mean? Like I've never game hawked a Harris hawk, but I still run my mouth. But I'll admit that, I've flown them for abatement for people, so I technically have flown them. But yeah, they're just
you're just being an asshole.
I'm being a dickhead. Yeah, but I am pretty much joking. I am joking. There's a whole conversation to be had there about newer people getting them and developing bad habits because of how forgiving they are. But they're cool birds. They're awesome. And a good friend of mine breeds them right down the street. He breeds a whole crap load of them. And he tells me cool stuff. And I did a job with him the other night. We were doing a pigeon shoot, and he asked me to help him out. So I went with him. And on the ride home, he was giving me some pretty cool stuff because he listens to the podcast. He's a fan. Shout out Tom Cullen. And he was telling me a story. He's been a falconer since he was literally born. His dad is a very well-known falconer and breeder. And he was telling me a story about it. They had one female Harris hawk, and they flew her, caught game, nonstop. It was one of the main birds that they had. And it took, after like the 8th or 10th season, like a long time, the bird finally realized, oh, there's squirrels that go in those nests. I can rip the nest apart and get it to flush again. And she learned that after a significant amount of time of being in the field. He was telling me now that skill from however many years ago, 15 years ago, long time ago, that bird's no longer around. His birds now, from the generation, one, because you can fly them together in a group, which you can't do with any other species except for maybe Aplomatos. And, there's the odd case of, flying into cast different birds and stuff like that. But I'm saying as a general rule. And so that female learned that, took her that long to learn it. Then the next year they put the young birds, they go game hawking with the young Harris hawks. They all fly together. They watch the female do that. Then they're doing it. Then that older bird passes away. Then you have these birds, they get old. And then he has birds now that are ripping nests apart in, 6 months of their hawking career. And they learned it because that one female learned it and then literally passed it down from generation to generation, that you can rip the nest apart and get the squirrel to reflush. And I was like, I'm like, dude, that is a really good point. And he knows that I'm just joking, and he's a friend of mine. So, but it was just, it's just a cool thing about Harris hawks that you can't really say about any other breed. a species, that they're, they teach each other things, and they keep each other in line, and they play off of each other. And, I was out with Harrison with his two females when he was flying them a few years ago. And the one bird would crash and miss and then run around under the cover like a dog. And then the other one would wait right above it. And the one on the ground in the cover would literally reflush the rabbit, and the other one would catch it. And then they would run up and mantle over together. It's like, they are very cool birds. So I'm just making jokes, everybody.
They remind me of the way the velociraptors on Jurassic Park act.
Yeah, clever girl. Yeah. That's my favorite part of that movie.
That's a great part. Yeah.
I always love that part.
They're I think they're great birds for the right situation and for people. I do think some people take the easy way out and just get them because, sure, 3 of them you can clean up rabbits and squirrels. You can catch 100 relatively easy,
right?
With 3 of them. But that's but you know what? If that's what they're into, actually, a Harris Hawker, guy named Doug Potter, he was one of the few falconers that hawked on the Outer Banks out here.
Okay,
he lived on the Outer Banks. He was a school teacher. And he actually facilitated a lot of the peregrine trapping on the Outer Banks. He was like the guy.
Very cool.
He did all the work for people. So shout out to Doug for that. Doug told me one time, he was like, he said, falconry is hard enough. He was like, I want to make it as easy as I can. And that's why he flew Harris Hawks.
Right.
So for him and his situation and his life and his busy life, they're perfect for him. And who am I to judge anyone for that?
100%. Yeah. I couldn't agree with you more on that.
Yeah. So falconry, I'd said earlier, gun hunting, deer and all that never really did much for me. It was when I could take part of the hunt with another animal, that was really what grabbed me about hunting. And it actually made me more interested in hunting in general. So like me and you were talking about, we want to go together on a lion hunt out west.
Yeah, it'd be fun.
But part of that makes it cool is the dog work involved in that.
100%. If somebody was like, oh, you could come out and just walk up to a tree and shoot a lion, because we know it's there, I wouldn't be really interested in that. It's the fact that you're cutting these dogs loose on a track that was from the day before, and they're going to work that thing for 9 hours, 12 hours until they catch up to it and tree it. And then we're going to hike over mountains and ride mules and then walk up there. And it's like, you see the fruits of the training of the dogs. That's the cool part. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's why I'm going. That's why I would go, is to see that, not to just shoot a lion out of a tree. That's, that people don't realize that when they get triggered about that stuff is,
some people do it and the end result is a picture.
Right.
They don't even shoot it.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm going to shoot it. Just
I heard it tastes. I heard the meat is very good, so I kind of want to try it.
I want a cowl.
A what?
I want a lion cowl, like the lion's head skin would be like pulled over my head. So it's like maybe like over my shoulders is like the claws like that.
Oh,
it's
yeah,
so it's like a cape with like a hood.
Yeah,
I don't actually want that, but
yeah. I think that as long my opinion, and I'm sure Aaron shares the same opinion, and I don't see what's controversial about it. If you're hunting something and you're harvesting it, meaning you're killing it, and whatever method you're killing it, as long as you're respecting the animal and you're utilizing it the way it's supposed to be utilized, I don't see why that should be triggering. As long as you're not torturing it or like being inhumane. You know what I mean? Like anything that crosses that line is different. But yeah, and I mean, and the argument that the dogs are torturing the lion before you're shooting it, that's false too, because lions tree all the time in the wild because of wolves and coyotes trying to steal their kill. It's a very common thing. They deal with it. That's why when you see them in the video, a lot of times they're just nonchalantly laying up there while the dogs are going ballistic on the bottom of the tree. It's only when the humans show up where everything gets sketchy because they're like, okay, what's going on here?
Yeah.
It's not, it's
that's
not
when
inhumane.
They might jump.
That's when they're going to jump. Yeah. And, there's another guy, Kirk Price. He does bears. He does houndsmanship with bears. And, Yeah, I mean the effort that these guys put in. I mean it's insane. It's a lot easier to throw bait out and wait for the bear to come. And this guy's driving all over, the friggin' earth with dogs and GPSs, and he's training them, he's feeding them, he's housing them. He's losing sleep at night, retrieving dogs. It's a whole lifestyle. Like, to say that it's just easy to go and do that, it's not. Like, it's really not. Like, if you said tomorrow, I'm gonna go get a hound and I'm gonna tree a bear and shoot it, it would take you probably 5 years to get that done. To get that dog trained, to get it competent, to get the bear to stay in the tree, to find the bears, to find the habitat. It's a whole, maybe not 5 years, but it's a whole process. And There's a lot of effort that goes into doing that. And that's what people don't seem to understand. Not to mention the benefits. Shooting over bait or shooting a treed animal is a huge plus. It's a huge plus for conservation, because now you have a static situation where you can properly identify the bear. You can properly identify the lion. You know if it's a tom or a female, or if it's a sow. You get to tell if there are cubs around. If you're just hunting off the cuff, just still hunting, and you see a bear and you put a hole in it, and then you walk up over the hill and there's 3 cubs down there you didn't know about, at a bait pile or treed, you're going to know if there's cubs around. You're going to know if it's a female. You're going to be able to properly identify it and then let it walk or take the shot. There's a lot of reasons why it's good to use dogs and to tree things. So I don't know, that's another thing that we could talk about.
It's very heavily managed too. Like,
oh yeah, that's huge.
The hunts employ biologists in the state, all types of stuff, so it's, we had said earlier when we were addressing the controversy, we're not proponents of doing detriment to wild animals. So if you killing the lion is not healthy for the population, then I'm not in favor of it.
You'd be breaking the law then. Because it would probably be, you probably wouldn't be allowed to do it in that area because they're so highly managed.
Right. So it's like trapping the wild Harris hawks in Arizona. They only issue 15 tags a year.
Right.
That's it. So they allow up to 15 wild Harris hawks to be trapped per year because that's what their biologists determined is an appropriate level of take for them. Yep. And I had asked this old timer there that helped me. His name is Bob Carson. If he felt like if they opened the take of Harris hawks, would it be detrimental to their the population? And he said absolutely.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And this is a pretty conservative guy. This was not a tree hugger.
Right.
He's just a guy who knows what he's talking about.
Yeah. That's good, man. It's good to be real with ourselves and to the way we view things. And back to the lion thing. They're not putting these collars on the lions in a have-a-heart trap in all these Western states. They're employing houndsmen to tree them, then to tranquilize them, then to put the collars on. Mm-hmm. So it's like, you know what I mean? It's
shit. That's how they've figured out there's jaguars in Arizona. And
what's that guy's name? What's his name?
I have no idea.
A super famous old school guy, and he's the only guy that has an actual picture of it wasn't treed. It was bait up on the edge of a cliff, and he's the only guy who's got the picture of it. They don't live there. They're not native, but they come across the border.
Through. Yeah,
they come through. Servals come across. There's all different kinds of cats that come across. It's fascinating.
Servals are African.
Oh, not serval. What's the other one?
Ocelot.
Ocelot. Sorry.
Yeah. There was somebody here that lost a serval. You could have servals here. And there were signs up everywhere that was said missing. And it was like, please do not shoot, call.
Serval is an African bobcat, basically, right?
They're like really long legged.
Yeah. The reason why serval was in my mind is because my buddy had one and he was showing me pictures of it.
Oh, okay.
When he was young, he had it. He used to walk it like a dog down the street.
So that's your excuse.
That was my excuse for getting those messed up. But yeah, there's so many different things and there's so many benefits for hounds. There's so many benefits for throwing out bait. Hunting is just conservation, and it's our job to just let everybody know that we talk to, just if they ask, if we get a chance to change someone's opinion without inserting ourselves. And I did get kicked back on our little controversy episode about telling people about hunting and stuff like that. And like that we probably shouldn't do that and we should keep our mouth shut. I meant more in the sense, like if it comes up in conversation, not like you're handing out tracts like a Jehovah's Witness outside of CVS or something. I'm just saying, like, if it comes up in conversation, it'd be wise to arm yourself with some good, ethical, reasonable arguments to tell people that you come in contact with. That's all I meant by that.
I think the people that I work with respect what I do. They're not hunters, but they know me and they know what kind of person I am. So they know that, they trust that I'm not going to do something that's going to be unethical or harmful to wildlife.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but working with animals, being a part of it, like I've always been a dog fan. I've always loved dogs. I've always had a dog my entire life. We've had dogs, never been without one, but being able to work with them, like I started with the dachshund, that was, that added a whole new element to my appreciation for different forms of hunting, especially when you can use dogs.
Yeah.
So much so that, as you're well aware of, I've been working to create a small breed of lurchers.
Oh, right. Yes.
That I'm hoping can get some traction here on the East Coast.
I listen, I want one so bad. I would get divorced if I got one.
You're going to have one in a few years.
Yeah. I'm just going to show up with it.
Yeah. No, I think your wife will be fine with it when that day comes.
Yeah. After seeing what Marshall's dog, the way Marshall's dog acted on a previous episode that you guys will hear, it's such a good dog. It's so cool, man. There's just so many different facets to taking game with animals, whether it's, with your bird or dogs or toads, like you were saying. There's so many, it's just so cool, man. It's so neat, The
Sporting Chance by Dave Mannix.
Yeah. I got to read that book.
The namesake of this podcast.
That's right. So, Aaron, do you think there's anything else that we need to cover with you? I think people probably got a good idea of who you are and your history and what you stand for.
Yeah. I think that just about sums it up.
Yeah, I would say so. So, thank you, everybody. What are you doing?
I was just going to say, I'm just a simple Southern rat hunting man. That's really all I am.
That's right. That's good. That's awesome. Now, everybody, remember, we have a Facebook page. We have an Instagram page. Go and follow. We're doing giveaways. We are going to do another giveaway. We have one of our sponsors that's going to donate some gear that we're going to give away. I'm working on another sponsor to maybe get some, some high end stuff that we can give away. And we just want people to follow along and be part of the community that we're building and the platform. Not that we're trying to take any community or anything like that away from anybody else. We're just setting up something, an open forum where people.
It's
time
to put a line in the sand. This is war.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
We're at war with every other podcast.
Yeah. We're gonna go in and cut their cords so they can't record.
Yeah.
No, we don't
cut their vocal cords.
Take it to another level.
Give them a little slice.
Yeah.
No. My hope, and I think I could speak for both of us, is that people will share and people will listen. Sometimes I think falconers they get jaded and kind of lose the curiosity about what other people have to say.
It's a good point. That's a really good point.
And, I'm guilty of it to some degree, from time to time. I definitely think I am, but I don't think that's good for me personally. And I don't think in general for falconry, like we don't have it all figured out. There's people who have learned nuances that we haven't learned that it would be to our benefit to pay attention and to learn. But yeah, that's all I'm looking for is just a few listeners, which by the way, we're doing pretty good.
Yeah. We got a lot of you guys are listening and we're really grateful. And yeah, on that same note, Aaron, that's part of the reason why I want to do the podcast is because there's so many people I want to talk to and pick their brain. And you can only talk to so many people, a night at a falconry meet around the bar or a table hanging out. So this is like a really good excuse just for me, like selfishly, to sit and just talk to people and get some good insight and good information and maybe up my own personal falconry game, So that's the goal for me and you, I think.
There have definitely been things that our guests have shared with us that have really that have stuck with me that I'm going to look more into and explore into the next season and going forward.
Yeah, man. That's the goal.
Paul's episode about about ridge strapping. I think more people should do that.
Yeah, it's a huge advantage.
And he dropped like some really specific knowledge in that episode about it.
Oh yeah, he basically just gave you a roadmap on. You could just keep the podcast playing in your ears while you're driving around looking for hiking around through the mountains, looking for a good ridge with the right angle, and then wait for the wind and how to set it up, how to set up your lure pole. Yeah, we broke it down. He broke it down. It was great.
Yeah. So if you haven't listened to that one, definitely go back and give that a listen.
Oh yeah, definitely.
All righty. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.